From Bossier City, Louisiana, this is The Grouch and the Brainstorm. Welcome back to The Grouch and the Brainstorm, episode 15. Can you believe we have 15 episodes in? That is...
It's crazy.
Wow, that is crazy. That is insane. That is everything that describes us.
Yeah.
So you gotta be 15 episodes is a lot of episodes. It's at least 15 hours worth of recording if you think about it. So, and that's not to mention the bonus episodes that we have done. So we we have a lot of hours worth of recording, and I hope everyone enjoys this thing. You know, I want to go ahead and start it out by saying that you can send us an email at bandgbosier@gmail.com, bandgbosier@gmail.com. And we have a telephone number, which is 985-377-4816, and we would love to hear you leave a voicemail. If you want, we'll play the voicemail on the air. Might even talk about it a little bit. We won't talk about you, though. This is a podcast about recovery, and that's what we like to talk about, and things that have our experience in recovery. We don't really give any suggestions. We don't give advice. We don't give any of that. We just talk about our experience in recovery. So there may be some things we leave out because we may not have experienced that, you know, but gathered around the table, we have a lot of years of recovery, and we've covered a lot of stuff in our years of recovery. Some of us may have, seen more than others, and some in newer recovery may have seen more than others. And that is the purpose of meetings, where we can go and we can discuss what's going on and how we need to get through it. That's why I really, whenever we have the topic of the day, if it doesn't necessarily cover what someone in the room's going through, they may not have got the full brunt, but, at least they got something out of the meeting. So tonight with me, I have Ben. Say hi, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
And I have Matt.
What's happening?
I have Hayden.
Hey.
And I have Jill.
Hey, guys.
And, of course, this is me, Mike. And we have a topic that was suggested by one of our big-time listeners, Miss Faye of the Koala Club, and she's actually been on the show before. She was a guest. I think it was episode 4, but I may be mistaken. But we had her and Michelle on the show for episode 4, and she requested tonight that we talk about emotional sobriety. And this might be the one episode that I get a lot of feedback on because I think we might all have a different idea of emotional sobriety. I'm going to read the Google definition of it. What is emotional sobriety? Emotional sobriety goes beyond the absence of addictive substance. It's about developing a skill set that enables a person to manage their emotions in a healthy way, preventing them from resorting to substance as a coping mechanism. Sounds a little bit like acceptance, almost, accepting things for the way they are. Maybe we'll read that, sometime in this podcast. And then there's another question. Why is emotional sobriety, or what is emotional sobriety? Alcoholism, it's just what it says. Physical sobriety means that you abstain from alcohol and drugs. That's your physical part of it. While that's essential for recovery, emotional sobriety is also important. I believe that to be true. Emotional sobriety involves being able to regulate your feelings so that you can cope with all aspects of life without returning to drugs or alcohol. Makes sense,
Yeah.
What do y'all think about that? One more thing I'm going to read here. What is emotional sobriety living sober? It's another Google thing. Emotional sobriety allows you to acknowledge those feelings and face them head on. So they
I like
don't,
that.
Yeah, I do too.
Right.
So they don't define what you do and who you are. Wow. That's probably the best definition, Having negative emotions while in recovery is absolutely okay.
That's good.
That is good. You're going to have negative emotions sometimes because you are human.
Human, yeah. Absolutely.
And we have a group of 5 humans here tonight. We left the dog out of this
Somebody
one.
may be suspect.
Jury's out.
There may be a reptilian sitting among y'all.
So we have 5 humans here tonight, and I can only speak for myself. I do not actually have the longest amount of recovery in this room right now. I've been sober for a while, and I can honestly say that I would love to think that I have achieved emotional sobriety. We're going to read something that Bill Wilson wrote later on in the episode about emotional sobriety, because he wrote a book called Living Sober. Let me stop there. I don't know if Bill W. wrote that book. There's a book called Living Sober. And it has a lot of this stuff in it, and I would suggest anyone read it. I read it. My second sponsor actually suggested I read it, and I read it. When I got the sponsor that I currently have, he told me one time, he said, I probably can't teach you anything about not drinking. I probably can't, do any of that. But what I can do is teach you how to live sober. Or maybe he said, maybe I can help you live sober, is probably how he worded it, because he's very, very eloquent in his words. So, and I took that to heart, because there are some times where maybe I don't have emotional sobriety. Maybe I feel like a 12-year-old kid again because I did not get my way, right? And then there's other days where I have acceptance of what's going on in my little bubble, in the world, which is my small little world. But case in point, a couple of days ago, I had a very important call that I had to get on. And, a lot of anxiety riding on this, as it could have been a call that's going to change my life, that big of a call, right? And so I go in my office. It's a video call, so I get a chance to sign in before everybody else does and all that other stuff. But I go in my office, and I take my name badge off. I put my name badge in my backpack, and I get down on my hands and knees, and I just said, "Thy will be done. I just need you to help me get through this. The next 20 minutes is all I need. I'm not all I need, but I need the guidance to get through this 20 minutes. Whatever you think is best for me, then that's what's going to happen, And then I got back up. I put my name badge on. I composed myself, and I signed on to the call, as opposed to being so anxious about this thing that's about to happen that I basically just start thinking about something that I really shouldn't think about, whether it's going out and drinking or doing drugs, or whether it's just doing something I shouldn't do to make myself feel better, And for me, and I can't speak for anyone, but that's emotionally sober at that point. I've gathered a little bit of acceptance over the situation, and whatever God wants is what's the most important thing in my life at that moment, not what I want, right? And I'm still allowed to want. Just so everybody knows, I'm still allowed to have a desire. I'm still allowed, but the outcome of that has absolutely nothing to do with me. And I have accepted that. And I'm accepted in a lot of parts of my life, and in other parts I haven't, and I have to do a lot of parts of my life. I have to accept it on a regular basis because it's there. But there are parts of my life where I've just accepted things for exactly the way they are. And I don't give them much thought. They don't really enter my head too much, because I know there's not a whole lot I can do about these things. And, is that emotionally sober? I like to think it is, but I also think that there's times where I'm not emotionally sober. And that's when I need you guys, right? I need you guys. I need a sponsor. I need some big book. I need a meeting. I need prayer, most importantly.
Yeah.
I need that higher power to I need to remember there's a higher power, and it ain't me. I think we'll just go around the table. We'll start with Hayden this time. We'll go all the way around back to me, and we'll just talk a little bit about emotional sobriety. Just warn you guys in advance, when we get back to me, I'm going to do some more reading, so if you want to hear me read, you go fast. If you want to not hear me read, don't go fast, right? So go ahead, guys.
All right. So what Mike said is so important to the way that I view my life today. I don't know where any of the literature says it, but acceptance is my answer today. Whenever I first got in the program, I really took advantage of that saying, and I tried to allow that be my excuse for the way that I was. I would view situations and I would say, man, I have to accept it. Even if I had the power to change something about it, the Serenity Prayer really encapsulates what emotional sobriety is for me today. Mm-hmm. I don't have control over people like I thought I always did. I had such a skewed perception of what was going on in life that, I thought I could control the way that people thought. I thought that I could control the way that they felt about me. And it just always led to disappointment. My expectations always let me down. And, and maybe not always, but there's something about having a contact with God that allows me to manage my stress in such a big way, because I'm not in control of everything, and I don't have to be. And it actually turns out that things go a bit better whenever I'm not. And it took a long time for me. I didn't have any faith. I might have had that fundamental belief in something greater than myself so deep down inside of me, but I was so disconnected from that I couldn't see it. And man, it took me getting in here and loving somebody else for me to realize that there's something to this, truly caring about others. And, that's what established, some trust in God, because that's not the way that I viewed my fellow man for the longest time. I really didn't care for people the way that I do today. And I feel like that ties in being a huge part of my emotional sobriety, just having the ability to care for someone other than myself. And not only that, it's like whenever there's something that I can do about me, mm-hmm. and then having the willingness to do it, especially whenever it benefits others. But sometimes, I might think that working on myself only benefits me, but it translates into so many different aspects of my life that, I get to be a friend today. I get to be a boyfriend. My family gets to reap the benefits of the emotional sobriety that I have today. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty awesome. I've never known any type of peace in my life. Whenever they say irritable, restless, and discontented, I knew exactly what they meant. I didn't understand a single one of the Alcoholics Anonymous phrases other than that one. I was like, yes, that is
bingo.
Yeah, for sure. Right. And today, that's not the case. It is sometimes, what Mike was just talking about with that phone call. I have something similar going on in my life right now. I have to sit down with my employer tomorrow, and this is essentially a life-changing decision that I've already made. But everything's going into motion first thing in the morning, and I just have to remember that no matter what happens, I have to remain connected to God. I do the same thing that Mike does. Anytime that I'm sitting down with alcoholics, anytime that I'm going into a big decision, before every meeting, before I go into a treatment center, before I do many of the things that I do in life, I pray first. And that's something that I've never done before. And there's something about that really fuels me. I can't explain it. And, I know that some people understand it, but whenever I'm going into a situation and I'm super nervous and I'm worried, and I say that prayer, there's something that happens. Even if I'm still nervous and worried after the prayer, once I make it through that, that's where I'll feel the gratitude a lot of the time, because once I'm out of the control seat, then everything turns out all right. And honestly, everything that's happened up until this point in my life has been all right because I'm here and I'm sitting with you guys.
Yeah.
But as far as emotional sobriety goes, it comes and it goes. There's certain things that I practice that work really well, but I don't always practice them. And it shows in my day to day whenever some of those things lack, or whenever I take a step back in an area that works for me, I can tell the difference. But today's been a good one. So.
Yeah.
So let me throw this in there because I want y'all all to answer this. Mike was talking about the physical sobriety, and then the, what we're talking about now, and the physical normally, cannot be that long of a time, and you're kind of over that, or you're, for the most part. But for me, the emotional part is that's a lifetime deal. Like that's where the sobriety really starts. Was the physical part pretty quick for you, or?
So, in my experience, whenever I got sober, my expectations for my sobriety were once the drugs and alcohol were removed from my life, everything was going to be all right. But it was quite the opposite. I've seen where people will get in the program and immediately start feeling better. And that just wasn't the case for me. So I'll tell you, my first day in sober living was cool because I felt safe for the first time in a long time. And immediately after that, everything was crap, and man, it's a gradual thing. Like I thought that I had arrived at where I needed to be in my emotional sobriety, and it's only gotten better since then. So it's like, I'm just looking forward to what the future has because I don't believe I've arrived anywhere. Right. It's like, and like I was sharing on a previous episode, I told myself I wasn't going to be in a relationship for the first year of my sobriety. But once I had that idea of like, okay, I made it, I was like, yeah, I can add somebody to my life. And then all that shit goes straight out the window. It's like, fit hit the shan, dude. I mean, I lost my mind immediately, but you live and you learn, and the physical sobriety is, it's extremely important, but the emotional sobriety has been much harder for me.
Yeah. That's I don't know, and I know Jill's talked about she had the detox part was a long thing for you, and I also ingested some other substances other than just alcohol, so I do kind of understand what she was talking about. It was a physical, little longer process than maybe it should have been, but once I got through that, I realized, there's a whole other deal going on here, so the recovery part really started then.
Like you said, that the recovery part really started.
Yeah, the actual recovery was like, oh, wait a minute, I'm an idiot, so now we start over, and 5 years later, still an idiot, but with less issues, so.
Be kind to yourself.
Well, I mean, y'all know me. I mean, I'm being funny, but, I mean, I am where I am today, and it's, man, it's just better. It's better all the way around, but man, I've got such a long way to go, and it's taken, years to just get to this point, and it feels like I haven't barely touched the surface. So, but anyway, what about you, man?
Emotional sobriety is a topic, and when I think about emotional sobriety, I always think about when I've heard a bunch of people say that from the moment we took that first drink, we stunted our emotional growth, and just about every decision I've made in my life up until this point, it's been based off of like what a 12-year-old selfish kid wanted to do or wanted out of the situation. And to answer your question, Matt, for the first year, I felt like a rock star. Joe talks about when you have willpower, comparing it to having diarrhea and just seeing how long you can hold it. I felt like I was strong enough to just push through it and not have to worry about the physical aspect of it. And I was doing things young in sobriety that I don't suggest anybody do, hanging around the same folks that were still drinking hard and heavy, going to social events where it's basically all about acting and doing everything that you're not supposed to do as a sober individual. But then I was greatly humbled right after my first birthday when I went and I passed by those same folks, and I stopped by and I wanted to gloat and show them, hey, I've got a year of sobriety, woo! And then somebody walked past me with a drink, and I smelled sweet whiskey, and I was like, let's celebrate my year with a drink. And then the next thought after that was like, how fucking stupid do you sound to yourself right now? Like, we need to just leave the situation and go pray and talk to people and make meetings and all the good stuff we talk about. But yeah, emotional sobriety for me is recognizing that I'm not 12 anymore. I've got more important things in life to worry about, and then approaching things and scenarios like a grown person ought to. Today I had a really rough start to my day. I woke up 2 hours late. I woke up at the exact time I planned on being where I was supposed to be working. Then after I called and let them know, hey, I'm running late. I didn't give them any wild, crazy story like I probably would have in the past. Like, hey, there was a wreck, or then I ran into a train, and then now my truck's overheating. Yeah, it's a bunch of three things that could possibly happen, but not all in a row. But I just told them, hey, I'm running late. I'll be there in a bit. Showed up, got everything going, and then I sunk the piece of equipment that I was working on in the mud.
Where'd you find mud?
At the pond that I was mowing around.
Okay,
Yeah.
Makes more sense.
Yeah.
We've had a dry spell here for a while.
Yeah. But I sunk the piece of equipment that I was working on in the mud. And then for the next about hour and a half, I fought that situation just like I fought my early sobriety and my alcoholism before I got sober. I did not want to admit defeat in that scenario. I hooked everything I could to that piece of equipment and tried to pull it out. And then finally, after I was fully soaked this shirt and my feet were covered in mud, and I was like, let me call my best buddy, because I'm not calling my boss. I'm calling my best buddy to see if he can come pull me out of the scenario.
Did you go pull him out, Matt?
No, it wasn't Matt.
his
Matt's
other
not my
buddy.
best buddy. No.
I'm second best.
Yeah.
I'm just the Instagram video guy.
Oh,
That's what I do.
Yeah.
It's my role.
But I called him, and of course he wasn't able to come to my rescue. And then I had to call my boss, and then he didn't answer. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to call his underling, and called him, and he's like, well, why don't you just get the big tractor and pull it out? And I was like, well, the big tractor's not moving. And he's like, well, we had a great morning, and my morning was over probably around 12:30 when I finally got to relax and just get back on that original piece of equipment and just go cut grass. But
you know, your best buddy, by the way, I want to say something about your best buddy. When Ben got in the situation he was in, and got into AA in the program early on, I knew his friend and Chris, and we knew each other, but I didn't know him. And just a month or two into it, and he tried calling Ben, and Ben's like an old senior citizen. He leaves his phone places and won't answer it for days at a time. Sometimes he doesn't even look at it. But I remember Chris calling me, and I didn't even know he had my number. And he called me. He said, hey, have you talked to Ben? And I said, no, I hadn't. Man, I can't get a hold of him. And it had only been like half an afternoon, you know. And I said, man, it just touched me that he cared enough to go, I'm kind of worried about this situation, you know. And I just was very impressed. And it says a lot about Ben, too, that somebody thinks that much of him. But, yeah, he's a good guy, by the way. And I don't know if he listens to this, but yeah. And I told him that. I said he was very worried about his friend, and still is. And I see him every once in a while, and, you know. But anyway, Chris, a good dude.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's not the greatest looking guy, but he's a good dude.
Yeah, he's not good looking, but hey,
I hope he hears
that's
this
the
someday.
pot calling the kettle black. So.
If he don't, I'm sure other folks will have their opinions of of your best buddy.
No, but yeah, I think
Okay.
that's all I got on emotional
Well,
sobriety.
You know, and you know, not to, because we're going on to Matt, but not to dive off too far into another topic. But you know, new recovery can be like a roller coaster, man. I mean, first off, we're going through these steps, and we've probably lost some things that we mean a lot to us. We probably think we can get some of those things back if we change. We probably think some people hate us. We probably think some people love us. We probably have all kind of emotions, just up, down, up, down, up, down on a daily basis. And, you know, Matt, you mentioned Ben's phone.
Mm-hmm.
And he don't carry it around sometimes. He leaves it and whatever it is. Well, you know, back in the day, you know, they didn't have that. They didn't have that crutch that we carry around with us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I wonder how emotional sobriety has changed since the 1930s, hell, the 1990s, right?
Yeah.
Because now that whatever it is that's sparking that emotion is in our hand or in our pocket.
A lot more accessible
Emotion-driven.
stimulus.
Stimulating. Yeah. We used some really big words in that last sentence.
Man, look, I've been practicing, guys.
Okay.
You know.
Stimulus. Well,
You know, and I mean, I think it changes. You know, and the same thing could be said for this. I got sober. I worked at a grass place cutting grass and got out of treatment. And the cool thing about it is there's sobriety stuff on there too.
Yeah.
You know? And so I would be on a lawnmower all day and I would pop headphones in and listen to people in Alcoholics Anonymous out in California talk about their story. And I would
those
listen to that
guys
stuff
can
all
tell
day.
some stuff.
Yeah. The
California.
Pacific Group and all that stuff, you know. And
Canyon Club out there in Malibu, or actually it's not, right outside.
but yeah, I mean, so it's both ways, you know, and I think, you know, but emotional sobriety for me, and it's constantly growing, and this has been going through it for a few years, but it's like at the end of the day, number one, just don't hide from the feeling and don't try to cover the feeling up. Good, bad, or indifferent. Either way, it's going to change. Happy, sad, mad, pissed, whatever you want to call it. You're going to feel them. You're a human being, and it will change, no matter which one it is. And some take longer than others to move out. But to be able to just sit and basically take it, for lack of a better word, and deal with it as best you can. And that's the other part of it, is I have to constantly go, I think we're all pretty hard on ourselves. I know I can be hard on myself. I'll beat myself to death over stuff. Just, you know, shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that. And to sit back and go, okay, did I do the best I could do? I'm handling this as best I can. Have I been praying? Is, you know, all these things. And it's given me a checklist of, you know, if I've done everything I can do, that's all I can do. It's just going to, if it sucks, and it's just going to suck for a little while, let it suck, you know, and that's all you can do. And for me, that's been a change, because I didn't like the way I felt. If I was, you know, in the past, before I came in here, if I felt great, man, I know something will make it even better. We can make this better than it was. If I felt bad, I can make that better too. So it didn't matter how I felt then. I used either way. So now it doesn't matter how I feel, and I try not to use either way on that, you know. What about it, Jill?
Okay, so emotional sobriety. You know, when I think about that, I think about what, you know, our core emotions, both positive and negative. I was not okay after the physical detox. I wasn't okay during the physical detox. When those emotions hit me, I cried for probably around 30 days. They were starting to think something was wrong with me at the facility I was at. I couldn't stop. And what it was suppressed emotions that I decided I just wasn't going to deal with. And it was probably decades of it. And there was a lot of grief in there. Sadness, loneliness, you know, just anger, everything. There wasn't a whole lot of positive in there. That left a long time ago. So at that point, it was like, what am I going to do with this? And that's when I, you know, dove into my treatment work, 'cause I knew something had to change at that time. But, you know, rather than what I did normally if I went to a doctor, because I went to a lot of them trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Instead of lying, I was actually honest with myself for the first time, and I just vomited everything, the frustrations, the anger, you know, all of it. And there was a lot that I had to process and a lot of work that I had to do. Like this stuff right here took some serious action. especially when it came to the grief, because there were just too many scenarios in my life where people had died that I felt responsible for. And that's something that I had to get over, or else I probably wouldn't stay sober. I also was suffering from severe, suffer from panic attacks. If I could not get over this fear, I would not stay sober. The depression, the anger. I was so angry at like where I was in life. And it wasn't okay with me because I was supposed to, gotten married in my 20s and had kids and had a professional, and had a great job and a house and all this shit. And guess what? None of it. And so I was angry at everything. And I displayed my anger through violence, which is absolutely not me. But man, if you got alcohol in me with a couple of other substances, and it wasn't just alcohol, it was whiskey, things got really ugly. And I got in blackouts. And it got to the point of aggravated assault and battery. Like, what? And so, that's me right there, not handling my emotions. And I felt like for a really long time, I was out of control. I tried medications, I tried hospital stays and stuff like that throughout the years. But again, I was drinking on them, I was using on them, and I was never honest with any of the doctors that I saw. But my emotions ran my life. Fear ran my life. All I could think about was how horrible things had always been since till then, and how scared I was of everything that could possibly happen. I stayed in this area of living in tomorrow and living in yesterday. Wait, those are two different things, right? That's not the same thing. Okay, I just got really confused.
No, you're right. You had it right.
And they say like that. If you're living in the past, man, you're ruminating. You are in the depression state. If you're in the future, you are future tripping. You're thinking about things that haven't even happened, which cause anxiety. And I think that's just what I did. So I let fear, I let, anger, I let anxiety and everything control my life. But the only way I thought I could control that was by using. So if I get drunk, guess what? That shit disappears for a little bit. If I get high, it disappears for a little bit. But I didn't know the fundamentals of addiction, which mean like, I have these feelings, they're out of control, but they seem to be controlled when I take this substance. However, I pass out, and when I wake up, they're there again.
And sometimes like gas on a fire, they're even worse.
Even worse.
Yeah, and that's what happened. And they got worse and worse and worse. And I'm just trying to put more drugs and more alcohol on it to make all this go away. And then somewhere, my addiction formed. And like I said, it was ugly. But throughout those years, I just suppressed everything because I couldn't handle it. And that's what I did. I avoided. I swept it under the rug. I suppressed. I did all of that. And it all came to a really ugly head in 2010. And I felt absolutely out of control. I felt, and I remember this was the strangest feeling that I've ever had in recovery was they had taken, the drugs and alcohol out of my system. And I remember sitting and I felt naked and I felt really exposed. Like I almost was sitting like trying to cover myself up because I felt so exposed at that point. It really freaked me out. And I didn't have, those things that I thought were protecting me to protect me and protect my feelings. And I felt really vulnerable. And that's the first thing that I had to do is get vulnerable. I had to talk about all of these emotions and through the steps is like really get down to what's really going on. I have all this fear. Okay. What is it? Let's talk about it. Let's break it down. What is it? Why? And why am I letting this control my life? Is this because I'm, being selfish or dishonest? And I was absolutely being completely dishonest with myself. And so, through the years, I've been able to dissect all of it. And I can honestly say that I'm stable. And I think that's really fabulous because I like feeling this way. I like feeling calm. I like knowing that if I do get in fear or if I do get angry, I have a solution and I know exactly what to do because I've been through it. And you better bet I'm going to be doing a lot of work because I can't afford to get angry because consequences. I just can't have any consequences anymore. Like that's just not my life. And there's so many ways I think I could go into say about emotions and emotional sobriety is I could go in many different ways. It means I can be vulnerable now and I can help other people. It means that, it means that I practice the principles in all of my affairs. So if I'm doing that, I'm not getting into those negative emotions. I'm not in self, because when I'm in self, I start to get into those negative emotions. It just, like I said, I feel like we could probably talk for years about like where this could possibly go and what this could mean. It means I treat people with respect and I treat them well. I tell my clients all the time, the golden rule is what I live by. I want to treat people the way I want to be treated. And that's pretty damn good. Because that will mess with my emotional sobriety. Just anything, it's taking care of myself. It's taking care of other people. It's making sure that I take care of everything in my life and doing it the way it should be. It's not lying. It's not cheating. It's not manipulating. It is not any of that stuff because that screws with my emotions. I don't want to feel guilty anymore. I don't want to feel shame. I don't want to feel fear. I don't want to feel anxiety. I have new emotions now and they're great. Like I feel happy for no reason. And I did not have that. I remember this one time I was driving down the street and I felt happiness for about 10 seconds. And I remember I called my mom and how pathetic this sound. And I remember being like, "Oh my God, Mom, you just won't believe what happened." I was blissful for like 10 seconds. And I can't imagine what that felt like for my mom to hear that. Like to me, it was like, whoa. I mean, it was far out. God, what generation? Anyway. And so I don't know, it's pretty much everything in my life because emotions are connected to everything. And I have to stay on top of that because I don't want to lose my mind again. And that's really important for my sobriety, everybody around me, my job, my career, it's everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just kind of
as Jill was talking, I was sitting around. All the guys were like looking intently and listening to everything.
Jill's always on it, man.
Yeah, we have to rethink that emotional sobriety thing.
And like something you said too is like when I was using and drinking, I was constantly evaluating my emotions. Why am I, but it wasn't evaluating them the way I evaluate them today. It was, I'm pissed. Well, I got to take care of that.
I got to do something.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right, let's celebrate. That was another good one.
Right.
We're going to make this happy. It's always an extreme. It always had to be extremes.
0 to 100, man. I love that. Yeah, that's what happened with my last DUI scare.
Scare. Last DUI scare.
My man had a horn stuck in the middle of the night beating on his truck because the horn was stuck honking and he didn't want the cops called.
Oh, yeah, dude. I could barely see lights. Like, I couldn't make out objects, but I'm over here in front of my truck trying to rip the battery out of it so the horn will stop, so it stop pulling attention so I can just get this thing out of the street before the cops show up.
He didn't make it.
Didn't make it. Cops beat me to it.
Oh, hold on. So it wasn't a DUI scare. It was a DUI, right?
No, it was a scare because I didn't wind up with
He was scared till he got the DUI.
How many DUI scares do you have?
Like 2, but there should have been like 15 billion because I love to drink and drive.
That's all of us, man.
But like, isn't that weird that I have a different way of evaluating where I'm at? And so like when I start getting irritated today and I go, I almost have a category to put it in and I go, oh, okay, well that's why I'm this way. And it's not just fly off the handle and go crazy and do I vent? Yes, Ben knows about it. He's been a part
awesome.
of it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. And I only get a couple of minutes, and then that's it. But, you know, it's a total different way of dealing with the same emotions without just burning it to the ground.
Well,
you know?
and that's the thing with a lot of emotions. I will react, and I don't react well to them. And so that's why I have to be careful. It's in everybody's best interest, including mine.
And the react, I mean, just even that is like today I go, just don't open your mouth. Just don't open your mouth. Right now, don't talk.
And here's the thing.
Just stand there.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? If someone says something to you you don't like, you don't have to do anything. There is, I don't know where the rule book I read prior to getting into AA is that says you have to react to everything, because I just don't have to react. I have learned in the little bit of time I've been sober, I have learned that no reaction is a reaction.
Oh, yeah.
And I have not ever got in trouble for something I did not do.
Have you ever had this situation? Somebody go off the handle. Sorry, Joe, I'm kicking you there. You go off, somebody goes off the handle or just gets that situation where it's instant confrontation, and I just stop and I don't say anything. And they're having the confrontation. It's a one-sided conversation, and they want you to engage in it. And then you maybe should even, especially a work situation, but you don't. And then 30 minutes goes by and they realize you never reacted. And then they calm down and they come back and go, oh yeah, well, and your story's never changed. My story's never changed. And that's a good thing today. Instead of it being 20 times worse than it could have been.
Oh yeah.
Just by stopping and going, I'm just going to act like I'm listening to music and I'm going to go on, and
Yeah. Like emotional sobriety also to me is the pause.
yes. Oh, yeah.
I was just thinking about the
huge.
pause, man. Just the pause. You don't have to go all Chuck Norris on somebody just because they piss you off.
Jill is Chuck Norris, dude.
Yeah, she's the Chuck Norris of our recovery.
Yes.
I want
Giving people
to
the pause.
on the pause. Talking about Jill being blissful for a second. It's like we talked about a lot of negatives and everything. I find myself anytime I have a reaction to something, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, I stop and evaluate the situation. And yesterday, I don't know if any of y'all seen the cinematic masterpiece Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls.
I've seen it.
There's a
Academy
scene in there
Award
where
winning.
he's driving along a smooth road and he's bouncing around,
Yeah.
acting like it's incredibly. I was in my tractor, or not my tractor, but my boss's tractor yesterday, and I wound up doing that. And then I stopped for a second. I was like, somebody might see me acting silly. And I was like, oh wait, I get to act silly today. I can
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, you
so
can
I
do
did it.
that too.
I leaned into it hard, and I'm in the cab, this thing just bouncing around, having a glorious time singing. Oh, I get to pause and realize that today I get to be happy for no reason other than just I was happy. And I get
and
to
being
enjoy
grateful, man. And like today, I go down the road or I'm doing whatever, especially in the morning. And I'm going to work and I'm trying to get my mind right and going through my little routine. And a lot of times it's gratitude, man. And I'm like, man, I'm sure like I'm the luckiest dude on planet Earth. And even with you, it's easy to sit and go, oh, well, this isn't going good and this isn't going good. But man, big picture, I'm way, way far ahead of where I should be. And but today when I'm grateful for something or a thought pops in my head that, man, this guy helped me out or this person is awesome, man. I let them know that. I want them to know, hey, man, I thought about you today. You've been a big help to me. And I had somebody do that the other night, sent me a text, and I was just like, oh, man, like, that was so cool. And they're like, yeah, I want to make sure when I feel this way and I was like, yeah, I try to do that too, and I did not do that a long time ago. I didn't send anything like that to anybody unless it was some kind of benefit to, and I still don't like Ben. He's over here eating pizza while I'm talking, but
anybody hear me eat pizza?
Oh, yeah.
but
Okay, that's fine.
yeah, it's just a whole different spirit. I think it's just spiritually, a change. And
So I'm gonna read a little bit of Bill Wilson. Y'all want to hear a little Bill W?
of course,
It's a letter he wrote. Those adolescent urges that so many of us have for top approval, perfect security, and perfect romance, urges quite appropriate to age 17, prove to be an impossible way of life when we are at age 47 or 57. Since AA began, I've taken immense wallops in all these areas because of my failure to grow up, emotionally and spiritually. My God, how painful it is to keep demanding the impossible, and how very painful to discover finally that all along we have had the cart before the horse. Then comes the final agony of seeing how awfully wrong we have been, but still finding ourselves unable to get off the emotional merry-go-round. That is some deep stuff right there, man.
And I think where a lot of people get trapped, speaking of the emotional merry-go-round, is the chaos, the drama. It's addicting, the game of all of that. And I think people like that, that black and white, that, not having that balance and being in the gray. They enjoy
in the extreme of emotions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to tell you, Jill covered a gamut, right?
Yeah.
A whole huge portion of some, probably just scratched the surface, on emotional sobriety. Nowadays, we have emotional immaturity on the internet. Mm-hmm. Someone upsets us, so we post something. And then it becomes a back and forth game that does not have to exist. Am I emotionally sober enough to accept the fact that someone said that and I don't have to do anything? Am I emotionally, as in war, the victor only seemed to win, right? I don't have to win. Sometimes losing might be the best thing for me. I can actually love somebody with all of my heart, and they not love me at all. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Yep.
As long as I'm not climbing trees in front of their house or sitting in their driveway, or you see where I'm going with that, right? So there's emotional insecurities in a lot of aspects of our lives. And today I just know, that, and on top of that, I can look at someone who has done something to hurt me, even if I haven't done anything at all, and I might understand. I have the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have the tools to deal with this. They don't. Yeah. They don't have the ability to control themselves. They're not emotionally mature.
And the social media thing, things get put on there and things get said, and if you've been in that situation and you're like, that's not necessarily correct, and then some of it's really not correct. The first, in the past, your first thing is to lash out and go,
right,
I'm going to clean this up. But you know what, man? Like, let people read it, and the reason, I don't care.
The reason I say that is I have a particular person in my life, and there was something said on a certain, I guess it was Facebook. I think it was Facebook, about this particular, not him. It was someone else, right? And before it's said and done, there is 300 things going on, that, do you know when it ends? Never. When people tire out. Yeah. Those comments will sputter. Who won there? Because most likely no one cares what you think. That's funny, man. You hit on that. But where I'm at today, and I think it's good, is I don't have to change somebody's opinion about me. Good, bad, or indifferent. It's none of my business. I can't control what they think about me. Do I always like some of the stuff that's said, or is it correct? No. Sometimes it might be true. And also at the same time, on the social media aspect of it, the people that know me, and it's a very small circle that I really not care about what they think, but that know me, that I have in my circle, it's okay, and people that are in my circle like that too, if I saw something social media wise and all this, the worst reaction would be, well, they're not perfect either. They're my friend, but
it just doesn't have to be a.
And if I can't handle that, I don't need to be on social media.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
I agree. There is something that you touched on, both of you guys have, that we haven't talked about, and that's empathy. Is the ability, if you are emotionally sound, and speaking of like emotional sobriety, you will have the capability to have empathy for other people. You'll be able to put yourself in other people's shoes. So therefore, when something does happen and you're angry and or you have any type of negative emotion attached to that, you can actually put yourself in that person's shoes and be like, well, yeah, if that happened to me, this is the way I would want these to be treated. And that takes a lot. That takes the absence of ego, the absence of pride in order to feel empathy. And I think that's a pretty big thing that is, what am I trying to say? God bless, I'm getting tired. That people, that people that are emotionally well practice.
And I think too, Mike hit it. Not everybody has a program. I think the world would be an awesome place if everybody went to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah,
because you can substitute. I mean, but when you're in those situations with people, and they're good people, I'm not talking about wild, crazy nut jobs, but you're in those situations with people, and you realize they don't necessarily have the same thing to fall back on, and they don't evaluate where they're at like we do.
Yes.
And you go, man, and then you pray for them, and they're mad at you, and you're going,
that's what's up right there.
They really like, I hope that they get a little bit of peace out of this deal and maybe can stop being so worked up about it.
And what can I do to help that person?
Yeah, and like
if it's staying away, maybe I need to stay away.
Yeah.
If it's offering up something, what can I do to help this person, regardless of what they've done to me? What can I do to make their life better? And the AA talks about this, right? It talks about our minds have got to be to helping others, and it talks about in the ninth step, how some people are sick and they may have been wrong, but what is our part? We always think about it, what was our part in the wrong done? What is our part in making this situation better, regardless of that, right? And you have to be somewhat emotionally mature or have some emotional sobriety about you in order to think about it like that. Because, and at first they may think you're being a smart ass. I mean, what's this smart ass?
Though too, when you just silently pray for somebody, you just don't even acknowledge. You don't even have to tell them that you're doing it.
No.
But that's where with I think God gives you that moment of too, when you break down and pray for somebody, especially somebody you're in conflict with, or there's a situation like that, God's gonna kind of go, hey, here's maybe something that might help that situation, and give you a nudge to, maybe I was off on this, maybe blah blah blah, whatever it might be. But it just goes back to spiritual maintenance every single day of our life.
And if you're relying on the guidance from a higher power, I promise you, if you feel anger and you want to lash out, that's you. That is not your guidance from a higher power.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
That's that selfish self-centeredness that we talk about in these books somewhere.
Speaking on the empathy thing towards other folks, I was employed at a place, and there was another person there that everybody knew had an alcohol issue. I mean, this guy, when it got warm outside, you could smell it off from 50 feet away. And before I got sober, I was just like everybody else that worked up there. I had a lot of anger, a lot of resentment towards him, and I did everything in my power, in some cases, to make his life a living hell for no reason other than it brought me some slight joy, just to make his ass sweat a little bit more. Now I'm sober, and I've got put back in a situation where I've been able to work with him, and I can see where I was just a complete asshole to him, and it's almost like, because of the state he's in, just every step he takes, he's worried about his job. He's worried about if he's going to fuck up or screw up anything. So anytime I'm around him, I try and put on a smile. I try and help him as much as I can. shoot, not too long ago, he was having a day where he was severely worried he was going to lose his job, and I just did everything I could to just. I mean, I had him stop for a second, take a breath. Let's just count to 10. Let's try and forget about the situation for a minute. Then we'll address what we got to address, and we can talk a little bit when we get done what we got to get done right now. But I can't tell whether he slowed up on his drinking or anything like that, but he looks a little bit better than he used to. But I can feel for him now.
And you may have made yourself one less person he's worried about, which is really all you can do.
I can tell when he sees me and he talks to me, he's not worried about when he's talking to me, and he's open to what I have to say to him rather than being immediately closed off like he used to be. Because as soon as I came around him, he was already ready for the punches prior to me feeling a little bit better or feeling a little bit empty.
And you know, too, man, the situation you're in now with your past with him, and then the way it is today, you know, the program's a program of attraction. And here's a guy that's dealing with the same stuff we've all dealt with. And I'm sure everybody in his life's like, man, you're a drunk. You need to get help. But yet you're at the same time just being kind when you weren't in the past. And he's going to sit back and go, what's changed here? Like, what's going on here? And instead of people coming down on him, it may open the door down the road to him go, dude, what did you do? You know, and you get to have that moment, go, man, I struggle with it too. And approach it the right way.
Yeah. And I've had a few of the coworkers ask what I thought about certain scenarios that he was involved in. And I was like, man, I just got to have some patience with him. Just, take a step back and think about it like if he was a child. Like, I mean, you can't just fly off the handle with him every single time, because all he's going to do is worry about every step, and every time he does that, he trips over his own feet
and probably lashes out in his own way. And it may be a lash out that happens at home and not at work, so we don't know who's affected, right? Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what the word empathy meant, and so I kind of
Jill uses a lot of big words.
I know, man. Even though it's only 5-6 letters. She's like, we got to talk about empathy. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, let's talk about that. Okay. It's kind of like sympathy without the S, you know? Yeah, I know. But, man, we had a good recording session here, good podcast. Got a lot of stuff. I want to remind everybody, you know, listeners and everybody that the principle behind the 4th step is courage. And last three episodes, maybe 4, we've talked about nothing but our personal stuff. We've dove off into some serious, issues with us, and that takes courage to talk about. And I hope somebody can talk about other things, with their sponsors or someone who listens, So next episode, we're going to dive off into integrity, which is the principle behind the 5th step.
I'm just going to skip that one.
No,
I'm out.
No, you're going to be here. You got to have enough integrity to show up. So, but we're going to talk about integrity, which is the principle behind the 5th step. And want to remind everyone about the email address. Of course, give us a call. Area code 985-377-4816. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a voicemail. We'll play it on the air. You got Mike Walston on Instagram. You can look me up, Mike Walston Jr. My dad's on there too. We got B&G Bozier at gmail.com. If you want to send us an email, we'll read it on the air. And of course, if you have our numbers, you can always text us. Want to send our shout outs to our loyal listeners. We got Faye, and we got Michelle, and we got Rhonda, and we got Kim. We got Judy and Larry out there in Radio Land. We have Jane, who listens on a regular basis. And I know there's a lot more folks that I just can't think of the names right now. I'll probably compile a list over the course, because I do seriously thank the people who listen and maybe can even share this podcast with other people who may need to hear some of this stuff, and what's going on in our world. So
my mother, very loyal listener, doesn't care about any of us but Jill. She loves Jill. She asks me lots of questions about Jill, so I know she's listening.
She may ask a lot about Jill, but I know she really loves me a lot because I got
Ben too.
two
yes,
jars
but-
of salsa, and I don't want to brag.
Oh, hey.
One of those were supposed to be for Jill.
I think I think that was a little bit of paid off because I sent her a whole bunch of jars last time I got some salsa.
Brown noser.
Yeah, because I wanted more salsa.
I was hoping we wouldn't bring up the salsa, especially since we're going to be talking about integrity next week. Because Matt left Jill's salsa here at the apartment, and
Wow.
yeah,
Thanks for narking
Did,
me out.
did
on
Matt
that,
write
guys.
integrity on the board?
no, that was me.
Matt will
Okay,
never
with an E?
write the word integrity.
I can't, man. I can't
Did you
even
ever
spell
get
the
your
word
salsa?
pervert. So anyway, we got to sign off for tonight. Thanks everyone for listening. From Bossier City, Louisiana, this is the Grouch and the Brainstorm.